Yes, Cinder, a remix of Dark Souls 3 by Rotaka. Folks, you know what that song means.
I'm in the studio. They better know.
Oh, I hope we know too. Sometimes I forget. Like, I think I've probably mentioned this at least once before, but sometimes when we start, I have to try really hard not to go into my normal good evening, friendo. It's time for stream stuff. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, wait, no, that's not what I'm doing tonight. Tonight is insert credits. I gotta
I mean,
not
you
do
are
that.
streaming.
I am. That's true.
And we
That's
are
true.
streaming to friendos,
Mm-hmm.
as always. I will say, though, it's still an adjustment coming back to doing it in person, simply because the fidelity for the intro audio is like 17 times better than the Discord call
True
was.
enough. Like, we're not crushing it to 64 kilobits per second or whatever the heck it happens to be over that. So, yeah.
Yeah. It always made me feel like, oh, I wonder if I sound like this.
No, you sounded fine.
Okay.
Like, most of the voice was great.
But I mean, like, yeah, it's totally different hearing that with, studio headphones because that's the way that the remix are intended for it to be played.
Right.
And it's just a jam that we'll probably have to replace with something else at some point.
Eventually.
Because we've been using it in how many years?
I think it's only our second thing that we've done for an intro since we started this series of things. So
8 years ago.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2014, wasn't it? We talk about this every time.
We do, and we collectively forget every time, too.
Yeah, it's because we're old.
Yeah.
That's the excuse. Just go with it.
We sure are. Okay, so podcast, insert credits, 2014. Holy shit. Okay, let's just pick a random one and see if it shows the intro. It does not. Of course it does not.
Dang.
We'll find out eventually.
Yeah,
but yeah, it hasn't been the fully. Well, we've had one like for the first couple years, I think, and then we swapped over to yes, Cinder here. I want to say there was an important reason for doing so, but we probably just figured, it's time for a new one, and that was important enough.
Seems good.
Yeah. Although we could probably go back to the origin year of this particular remix, and we'd probably be pretty close too. So let's take a quick look. Yes, Cinder. 2017. Yeah. Okay. So probably early 2018 at the latest, I would say, when we started using it.
Seems legit. Yeah, so, we both heard it and we were like, damn.
Yeah, it's fucking fire. We're using this one.
It is. Yep.
But yeah, so anyways, welcome everybody. I'm MrBond.
And I'm Tormod.
This is Insert Credits. Round 106, those that escaped, us two being two that have escaped now from Twitter since it is self-immolating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And congrats to everybody else who is escaping as well.
Hooray!
Unfortunate for those who cannot voluntarily escape for whatever reason. Our sympathies, but congrats to everybody else who has been able to get out the door voluntarily and or in a good situation or otherwise, really. Because that place has taken up way too much of our time. I should only speak for myself. It took up way too much of my time. I don't know about you. Okay, yeah.
God damn.
So, cool.
Cutting the tether.
We are now gone from Twitter. As for those watching the multimedia, we'll have to change that, of course. But
that's true. I mean, my account isn't deleted yet.
Correct. Yes.
But it is imminently happening. So I look forward to doing that. Actually, both of my accounts. Ooh.
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my god.
Yeah, I saw a couple of ours were still alive, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I didn't actually delete them. I just essentially said they were inactive, and that was it. But yeah, so that will be a change that will feel good. I think for many parties involved, is to just finally bid the health site goodbye, for good.
See you later, Elon.
King dipshit. I have many colorful terms for a person such as him, but that's not what this show is about. So welcome everybody, yet again. Insert credits. We talk about video games here. We do some news at the start, and we listen to some cool tunes, and we talk about what we've been playing since last time. Then more cool tunes, and then we do some design at the end, which has gone very well on the whole, despite the mixes of genres and settings and whatever else that we end up with.
It won't be a porn game again.
We can't guarantee that until we do the roll. We might get stuck with it. Like, once we do 3 rolls, that's it. We have to do it.
There's a pun in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there probably is,
Yeah.
isn't there? Well, anyways, housekeeping. Next show will be, December, so that'll be the final show of 2022.
I think we chose.
Looks like the 16th.
Yeah.
Seems
legit.
good. And then first show of 2023, which would be round 108, I think has already been cordoned off for the 13th, right? I guess we're not getting out of that one.
Friday the 13th being
Yep.
your birthday and all.
Yeah. So that tracks, I suppose. That leads us up to February 2023 for round 109.
All right.
It's like 17 is the closest to mid-month. Otherwise, I think either bookend is fine too, the 10th or the 24th. We always have some manner of flexibility until we actually get closer to, of course.
Yeah, it's true. I'm just wondering, like, should we have the pre-Valentine's Day show or the post-Valentine's Day show?
Oh, that's true. That does pretty much ride dead center, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure do.
Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care, but
let's jump on for the 10th. Why not?
Okay, sure. We can put the 10th up there for now, and I'll remember to do this later. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, and then that's 3 shows out, which is typically where we stop because time is an illusion, and nobody knows what's going to happen in that amount of time. Which leads us into Around the World for our news segments. So here's a blast from the past and still remains one of my favorite games of all time. The original Unreal Tournament, released in 1999, is still getting official, unofficial patches. In fact, the most recent one, version 469, nice, C, has just been released, and it still has compatibility back to the last official release of version 432 for server side. And new to this particular build, this particular patch set, is a native Linux 64-bit build.
Hey!
Hooray! I mean, I've already been able to run it in Linux since forever. It's typically one of my go-to first applications that I install on a new build just for funsies. I end up playing it for a bit and then let it go for a bit. And it's just such a combination of nostalgia and genuinely still being a very fun game to me. So it's cool and good that they are still updating it. They being old Unreal, very community efforts. Epic Games doesn't officially do this sort of thing, but they haven't exactly stepped in and stopped it. And typically their non-Windows support for older games has been pretty stellar. So I won't give them any guff for that. In fact, I'll give them somewhat a little bit of props, despite me not really liking their most recent efforts, both Unreal Tournament and otherwise. So, cool. New release for a 23-year-old game.
Hell yeah.
Love it. You love to see it. Genuinely love to see it. Slightly less good news, closer to neutral depending on how you fall on either side of this. Ho Games has sold off their Risk of Rain IP to Gearbox for an undisclosed sum. The good side of this I can see is, hell yeah, good devs getting paid. Booyah. Good for you. Good for you. The bad news being that I really like Risk of Rain. And I'm neutral, slightly negative on Gearbox. So, not sure what's going to happen there. There's been the typical commitment of, we still want to put content out and shepherd this wonderful title along, and all that sort of garbagey marketing speak for things about to go south. So we'll see what happens. As always, guardedly optimistic. We'll see what happens. Blah 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 blah. If there ends up being like a Risk of Rain 3 or something, it still ends up cool. Great. I would be happy to be proven somewhat wrong in my opinions of Gearbox. Sure, fine, whatever. But it's got to happen before my opinion of that turns around. We'll see what happens. Good for devs getting paid, kind of meh otherwise. On the legal side of things, so a while back, I forget when, it must have been at least 3 or 4 shows ago, we first talked about Bungie filing a lawsuit against a cheat maker for Destiny 2. That is apparently still going on. There's been another new little wrinkle to it. The cheat maker in question, Aim Junkies, has actually filed counterclaims against Bungie, citing Bungie's possible violations of both the CFAA, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, as well as the anti-circumvention provisions of the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And their claims amount to effectively that Bungie somehow, they didn't go into specifics, which is why their counterclaims got tossed, Bungie somehow hacking their cheats in such a way to steal copyrighted material or whatever. The fact that they didn't include any details made the judge very unimpressed with their counterclaims, which were summarily tossed out.
Yeah, okay.
So Bungie is still clean and clear to proceed with their lawsuits against Game Junkies. Good, I guess. I'm not really a big fan of cheat makers and other folks that work against normal folks just trying to play games and have fun online, which is what I see cheat makers kind of doing. If you cheat in a single player game, whatever. Just do whatever you want, honestly. But when you start extending into the online realm with multiplayer and you're just making the experience shitty for everybody else, don't do that, please. So who knows what's going to happen? Like, this has been going on forever. We'll see how it turns out. Perhaps next show, perhaps the show after. The counterclaims were not thrown out with prejudice, so they can amend and refile. They have until the 21st of November to do so. So maybe we'll see. Maybe they will just quietly go away. Maybe they will be loudly pursued by Bungie still. Who knows? We've got some time to kind of wait and see how that resolves. On the more negative, even more negative side of legal aspects here, it turns out that Yuji Naka, one of the co-creators of Sonic the Hedgehog, has been arrested for alleged insider trading.
Oh.
Yeah. Oops. He has allegedly purchased stock. He had allegedly purchased stock in the company that was developing one of the Dragon Quest titles, Dragon Quest Tact, I believe it was called, prior to that studio being announced as working on the Dragon Quest games. So yeah, that's a little bit suspect and shady, and we'll see if that gets proven out and something actually happens. That's no good. My understanding... didn't even fucking realize that, really. It's always kind of a shame when somebody as well-respected as a creator of a beloved series does that sort of shit. That's no good. It's not great for anybody to have kind of that perspective of people that they look up to just kind of sullied like that. So if true, that's real shitty, Yuji Naka. Don't do that. And if false, well, who knows? Who really knows? I would presume that since an arrest has actually gone forward, that there's some merit to it, but not a lawyer. Don't know what to say factually about it, but just reporting what has happened so far. All right. Well, there's my spread of good to not so good news. What you got?
You remember that graphics card manufacturer by the name of NVIDIA?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, so they have a class action lawsuit going against them.
Oops.
You may have heard that their 4000 series RTX graphics cards were recently released, and they have obscene power requirements.
And they're huge.
Yeah.
Physically.
4 slot cards, at least a foot long. What is this, the 8800 or whatever the hell it was? You remember what Travis showed us?
Yeah, it's like a 13.5-inch beast of a thing.
Yeah, it was just...
Oh, it's wild.
Well, okay, we're back to that, and we're also back to cards taking ass loads of power.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, so it turns out that if you try to feed a bunch of power over cabling that isn't well suited for that much power, thermals don't work out in your favor. Yeah, so things have been melting. Cables are specifically the reason why. This was proven out a couple weeks ago. But yeah, NVIDIA decided to go with some substandard cables, and things have been melting and catching fire. Many, many puns to be made there. But yeah, yep, that's all happening, and NVIDIA has been telling their add-on partners to collect the cards that are having these problems and send them back. So yeah, the connectors themselves are melting, the cables are failing, etc. But like, how you QA'd these? I'm sure,
right? Common refrain on this has been that the cables have been either seated incorrectly or unseated somehow, and that even a moderate bend would cause connection issues such that more current would go down less pins, causing the overheating, melting, flame, smoke, etc.
So I've heard now that they made a 90-degree adapter for 16 pin. So at least that should help,
I
perhaps.
I suppose.
But yeah, I'm just like fathoming 800 plus watts for just a graphics card, and I I would need to have a different case. I would need to have two power supplies. Like, what the fuck?
And 600 watts just through that particular new connection alone, which is part of the ATX3 spec, by the way. This isn't some NVIDIA proprietary thing. Um, Thankfully, I guess, positive to that.
Yeah.
However, AMD has said that they're not going to that connector for their current and or upcoming cards, if I remember correctly.
Which
So,
their 7900 XTX, I think, is the flagship card that is similar to a 4080. It's also $600 cheaper than a 4090. So like,
true. Yeah. But still retailing for $1,000 MSRP, so
yeah.
600 less of 1600. It's a whole PC for just a GD power, not GPU. Ugh,
Yeah,
incredible.
$600 not even being half the cost. So yeah,
I know
but
that's gross.
everything is super expensive and power hungry and melty and whatever. But other things that have failed, as of the 10th of November, Google has started sending out refunds for its Stadia purchases. So, congrats.
Did that even make it 2 years?
I honestly didn't care enough to look.
Right. We could page back through our old show notes because I'm pretty sure when they did the first announcement of this, we were both like very, we're not hopeful about this. We'll see what happens, but we're almost betting that it's not going to happen. And boy, howdy, look at this.
I mean, we had a whole list of prior attempts at game streaming
yeah.
services
Yeah.
that obviously all failed. And, well, okay, fine, Nvidia's is still up, whatever. But, like,
I suppose it is. Yeah.
yeah, even though that was in troubled waters for a while too. But you kind of knew what was going to happen. Google just kind of abandons shit anyway, just for fun.
Yeah. If they had thrown their actual weight and money and attention behind it, it probably could have succeeded.
See, Google is to their software as Ubiquity is to their hardware.
Oh.
They just go too wide and not good enough in much of any of it these days. I'm happy with the hardware I have, but a lot of people are not. But regardless, yeah, Google had what, like 4 different chat apps at the same time?
Yeah.
And kiboshed 2?
And two of them were largely identical. And I think they killed the older one for some reason, but then they brought it back, and then they renamed a newer one the same as the older one, and everybody was confused. And I think they did that with payment stuff too, didn't they? Google Wallet, Google Pay, Google Wallet, back and forth.
Yeah, Wallet is back.
Oh
back
no.
again. Yeah, I don't know. Google Plus though, yeah, like I haven't
It was interesting.
thought about
sure.
that since the year 2010, so it's been a while, but like it was also decidedly Web 1.0 at the time.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that. It kind of used Google Talk as a backend for media stuff, I'm pretty sure, or did it even have media stuff?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Whatever. It's fine. Man.
So rip Stadia and rip all the engineering effort that undoubtedly went into it, because I'm sure it's very cool from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that business/marketing/ Google's perpetual inability to focus on anything has killed it.
I have ADHD too. I do empathize.
True. Are we going to get into the whole corporations as people thing again?
I can't hug a corporation.
I mean, not with that attitude.
Okay, Death Hug, I'm much more into. Anyway, Final Fantasy 16 is going to be a PS5 exclusive, but this time it's only for 6 months. So Final Fantasy 15 was a PS4 exclusive for a year,
Okay.
as was the Final Fantasy VII Remake Interlude, question mark? I don't know, whatever the fuck subtitles they have for that. But now it's only 6 months. Okay, cool.
Okay, getting better, I suppose.
This one is set in medieval Europe.
Okay, so we jumped ahead to Cars for 15,
Yeah.
and now we're
Way the hell back in
going
the
back
14 and 1500s,
again,
roughly thereabouts.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And allegedly the development is nearly done.
Damn. Okay.
So I had a PS5 new in box. I bought it at launch. It sat unused for like 8 months. And then one of my friends is like, golly gee willikers, I sure wish I can get a PS5. And I was like, here you go.
Wish granted.
Pay me what I paid. And that was the end of that. So I'm not going to be playing Final Fantasy 16 for a while. Not that I probably intended on it because I have way too big of a backlog. But who doesn't? I've deliberately not watched a whole lot of it. I saw the announcement trailer and that's about it. I don't know if much more has been released, but it's a Final Fantasy game. I actually quite liked 15. From the little bit that I saw of 16, I think I would enjoy it. So maybe I'll eventually get it. But speaking of games that came out on consoles and then PC, Octopath Traveler is a game that I've been playing. I'll talk more about that later. However, it was released on Switch for a full year before it was released on PC. It had no DRM. It was great. No weird shit to worry about for compatibility or kernel level bullshit.
Gee, what
And
halcyon days.
All right. Project Triangle Strategy turned into Triangle Strategy, just like Project whatever. Very original naming scheme.
Yeah.
It was released on Switch for a while and then came out on PC. Rather like silently. I didn't hear anything about it until I went looking for it. I was about to buy it at full price because I was excited. And then I saw it came with de novo DRM.
Boo!
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So I will say that if FF15 does the same thing, or 16 rather, does the same thing, I'm not buying it. So that could be the end of Square Games for me. Yeah.
So how long did it take before it was cracked and then they reversed course and removed it?
I don't know. I actually did look.
Happened?
Because I was willing to buy the game if I could play a cracked version of it so that I wouldn't have to have de novo shit installed. Now I'm wondering if I can, like, run a low-level hypervisor and run it inside of there and not have it on my actual machine. I don't know.
Don't they explicitly check for that now?
I
Isn't
have
that
no
a whole
clue.
big thing?
I don't know, but whatever. Wait. Oh, yeah, play it on Switch. Yeah. That's what people are saying is just play it on one of them their Switch emulators that you saw in the Steam Deck commercial, and then it was yanked. I really don't want to do that, but
nothing's
like,
jumping out about it. So
yeah, I really want to play Triangle Strategy. I love Square games. I'm still gonna call it Square. I love Fire Emblem. I love tactical RPGs. Like, we spent 2 or 3 years half-heartedly agonizing over designing one. I wanted to play it, but like, I don't really want to play it on console if I can buy it on PC, because I do have this fancy Steam Deck still sitting in a box somewhere.
Oh, open it up. It's great.
I know. I'll get to it. But like, I want things to be on PC. I want to have 4K support. I want modability. I want all of these things. Like, console just doesn't have the same breadth of those things. I'm not waiting, or I'm not going to buy it if it has de novo or other similar Ring Zero drivers that are installed. I find that to be incredibly invasive. It's spyware, potentially. It's very, very easily turned into a vector for that if it's insecure, which I'm sure it's been targeted. Like, I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's a pretty hard pass in general.
Yeah. I mean, if I can figure out a way to make it work, I will give them my money, but I will bitch about it the whole time. Well, speaking of consoles, I have been very impressed with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So I get all the same games on Xbox as I do on PC, and It's one cost, and it's a massive library that rotates fairly often. Yeah, it's actually pretty great. I like it a lot more than PS Plus when I had that. But Microsoft is apparently not charging enough, according to Phil Spencer. Between console game and subscription prices, Microsoft's not making enough money on consoles right now. And he warned people ahead of time that they're going to have to raise the prices, but promised not to do it until the holiday season ended. So gave people a heads up, like, hey, now's the time to get stuff if you want it, and price is a thing for you. Okay. Allegedly, Microsoft is losing $200 per console sale. I don't know if that's true.
That sounds way too much. Like, that would put them in the red significantly.
I mean, Microsoft is making hand over fist with Azure services. That's basically their big cash cow right now.
Which is also surprising for other reasons, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess they have the money from their other divisions giving them enough in revenue to make things still worth it. But, like, I don't know if I believe it. Like, $200 per sale. What the hell does the Xbox Series X even cost? $500?
I want to say $500 for, like, the upper end.
And what does the PS5 cost for the disc version? I'm actually curious.
That's a good question. Let's see here.
I think the PS5 was more expensive, but I don't remember.
MSRP.
$500 for the Series X. Okay, let's look at the PS5 disc version. Also 500. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard anything on Sony's margins regarding the PS5. I'm actually really curious to see how they compare. The hardware is very similar, as we all know. They both have Ryzen chipsets on the inside. Very similar everything else.
I can't imagine, though, if they're losing $200 per console, that means the cost to build is $300? No way. That's just bad math. I can't. No, I can't.
No, I think they're going the wrong way on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Cost. Sorry. Yeah. I'm bad at math.
I mean, it's fine. I mean,
still, even though 800,
you would think that it would be less expensive over time. That they initially priced it wrong, but I guess that's what they're saying. Like, the more you make of the same chips, the less they're going to cost.
I suppose, but $200 is still a significant percentage of that.
I mean, there is the case of chip shortages and also inflation, which I guess is a valid contributor to those things.
But if they haven't adjusted the prices upward to match,
$200 is a serious chunk of that 500. So,
I don't know.
We'll have to see if Sony decides to publish some numbers too. I mean, this would be a great time to gloat.
It would be.
But
maybe there's nothing to gloat about, though. So they're wisely staying silent.
Yeah. But something to think on before we go into our next segment, which is Toon Skis Part 1.
Which is now. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Tonight, we start our music with Dovahkiin in Jamaica by M. Benson. I'm not going to make the joke.
Oh, come on, man. You know you gotta.
All right. We were talking before the show about, like, why does M. Benson sound so familiar? And we came up with that it's basically as if M. Bison and Benson from regular show became one character. Yes.
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't do the voice as well as I did before, but whatever. Yeah. And Ben Curtin from The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim going into reunion by About Blank from Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, and ending with The Zombies Ate John Carpenter by Hoboka and Usa from Terranigma.
No meep. No
No
meep
meep?
for us.
Dang. Okay.
No, it wouldn't. For the next one in the list, that wouldn't be a meep. I don't think. I don't remember what it would be.
Eh.
But no matter. Perfect segue into second segment here. What we've been playing since last time. It looks like we both have a pretty okay list going, which is great.
I played video games. What the
Hooray!
fuck?
I know. What happened?
Uh,
Ha. Anyways, you were telling me about this first one at length over dinner, so go ahead, take it away. Let's hear the tale again.
All right, Slay the Spire is a game that I've been playing a whole lot of. Recognized the name at one point, and I was like, "Oh, it's on Game Pass. I'll install it." Ended up liking it quite a bit. It's one of them thinky games with math and tactics and stuff.
Thinking.
Yeah, which is definitely my style. Liked it enough to buy it on iPad, which I then played on my former laptop because it could do that. Then I sold the laptop to Saxon, and now I've basically just been playing the game on Xbox with the Game Pass Ultimate subscription and whatnot. Oh shit! I bet that means that I can play it on PC too.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay, so I have heard that it's much more difficult to mod Game Pass games because they package them weirdly.
I can see that.
But anyway, been playing a bunch of Slay the Spire. I've been trying my hand at doing the dailies every time that I actually like boot up the game just to see what it is, and they've all been really interesting so far. I can consistently complete the dailies now. And that's including, the Defect and the Watcher, which are the two latest characters introduced in the game. They have very interesting properties. So, yeah, it's getting fun. I've never really placed above like the 40s for a daily, but I'm consistently getting above many, many other people, which is fun. Yeah, it's been a good time. What else did I tell you about?
Something broken builds and
Yeah,
cards and shit.
So I've been experimenting with the replacing your starting relic with another rare relic thing when given the option. And I ended up playing the Defect this week and ended up replacing the cracked whatever it's called with Astrolabe, which that replaces 3 cards in your deck and upgrades them at the same time. So I ended up getting something really stupid. I ended up getting Hyper Beam as an upgraded card before my first battle. And then I ended up getting Bottled Flame, which allows you to have a chosen attack always be in your starting hand. And then I ended up getting an artifact that applied 1 vulnerable to all enemies. So it was dealing 50% additional damage from an upgraded card, which, if I'm not mistaken, upgraded Hyper Beam is 32, and then an additional 50% is 48 per enemy. So you can see how that might be busted at the beginning of the game. I had all of these things before I was out of Act 1. And yeah.
So what do enemies top out at as far as HP is concerned?
Well, okay. So for normal enemies, I have to think if like the transient is an elite or not. I don't think it is. Maybe it is. The transient is the weird shadowy shape-shifty thing, and that has 999 and it dies after 5 turns, but it progressively does more damage.
Okay.
But the more damage you do to it reduces its damage given to you. So that's one thing. I've noticed a couple enemies like at 99 health that are just normal.
So low hundreds probably.
Yeah, I'd say
at the high end.
Yeah.
Okay. Still like 48 damage at a crack. Holy hell.
Yeah, I mean, like, fine, I'll take it. Like, Hyper Beam is a 2 cost or a 1 cost? I can't remember. It's real cheap for what it is. But yeah, they kind of have to balance the defect a little differently because I don't know, it isn't as super attack heavy as say the Silent or the Ironclad, so they have to give more powerful things for less,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a
Mm-hmm.
lot more curative things in there. Um, but I don't know, it's just a very interesting character that I'm only starting to feel more comfortable with, but that build was just busted from the get-go. Like, fine, I will take this gift that you've bestowed upon me and run with it. And that run ended up getting in like the 1400s. I've never gotten above 1600 yet, but it's gonna come. I think my top scores with the Silent so far, because I just had an absolutely busted attempt maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. But whenever you get synergy going with a deck, it's usually always a good time, and it's real sad to see them, die before you actually get to the end game. But I think that one was a Shiv build, and it just kept multiplying Shivs. And then I had the card that would apply 4 extra damage to each Shiv, and then it would upgrade all Shivs to Shivs Plus, and then I had Finisher, which is 7 damage per attack that you've made in a turn, and you keep generating zero cost Shivs, and
I
that's an attack,
see. Okay.
and then you have Finisher do like more than 200 damage, and it's a thing, and yeah. Yeah. That's real fun when you can make that kind of shit just like snowball into other things. But no, that game has been real fun. That is kind of my casual go-to. It scratches the brain itch really easily. It has the happy fun numbers game. It has the chance encounters and whatnot, and random events that are random enough that it makes it interesting. So, still one of my favorite games. The Steam release has a mod for it that adds a character class and also allows you to play as the boss monsters,
Hmm.
preventing the, I don't know, the people trying to ascend the spire from ascending. And I haven't tried it yet, but I saw a trailer for the mod and it looks fucking cool. So I'm contemplating buying the game on Steam again because that looks real great. So definitely a thing. Um, I have rambled about that a whole lot. So Final Fantasy 15, I honestly couldn't remember if I did this right around last show or if it was slightly after. But hey, um I had a PC save going for FF15 like 4 years ago, and I just kind of stopped playing the game at one point because I was trying to do a run where I did all side content I possibly could before moving on with the story.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was just getting steamrolled by one hunt before moving into the other continent. And I went back into the game just to see, like, hey, how's the game changed in the last 4 years? Spoilers, it's much better optimized. I'm able to play in 4K with everything turned on a 2080. I wasn't able to do that with my 3090
Hmm.
back when I
Damn.
had it.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's actually real great. It holds 60 FPS fairly regularly. That was cool. So I was just farting around with the game for a while, and it's like, oh yeah, I should try to go do this thing that I really don't want to do because I know I failed it several times and blah blah blah. And I get there and I think finally, and I'm like, I usually play Final Fantasy games with like, if I only have enough money to buy either weapons or armor, I'll buy weapons. And I never really think about buffs or debuffs, or
Okay.
hadn't really. And then I started playing Slay the Spire, where you have to use debuffs to your advantage or
Right.
buffs and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I was like, I have all of these items in my inventory with stacks of 99 that are like, gives you temporary strength for 2 minutes or something. I'm like, why the fuck not? I just blew my load with all of those various items and whatnot and got it in the first try. I was like, God fucking damn it. Ah! So, yeah, that happened. I haven't played it much at all since then, but I've been playing Slay the Spire, and another game that I'll get to. I briefly played Risk of Rain. The first time Vlad played it was a multiplayer attempt with me. Neither of us had any fucking clue what we were doing. And eventually, we both just died. I was like, cool, I've had enough of that, and I'm done. And Vlad kept going, and Vlad unlocked every character class in the game, and yeah, had some cracked shit going on. Okay. He started playing the game at like 9 p.m., and I fell asleep on the couch 4 times individually, and he was still in the same run. Yeah. He had one where he was playing Acrid and ended up with max HP, items completely running off the screen, stacks of like 10 plus for some items, and god damn. Like ended with a score of like 10,500,000 something, and it was like, okay, you did it. Good job.
Congrats, you have beaten the game.
Yeah. The inventory screen leaking, yeah.
More or less.
So that run lasted at least 230 minutes. And I'm sure it was longer than that. But you could tell that it was struggling. So it never crashed. It certainly looked like it wanted to, because there were literally hundreds of enemies on the same screen because of just how much was spawning in. Once you hit that highest difficulty of instead of spawning normal enemies, it just spawns like bosses on you, and multiple of them in the same screen, and then they spawn some things. It's just, yeah, it's chaos. And I like big numbers and lots of shit happening at the same time when I'm not the one trying to follow it. So that was extremely entertaining to me, but I kept falling asleep. But like, it's just, yeah. I'm gonna have to coax him into playing that again sometime soon, because it's really satisfying to watch. It's just too much all at once for me to follow it when I'm playing it. True. Yeah, I knew somebody was gonna make the joke. EI, thank you. Oh my god. Yep.
Get out.
I've never played Phantasy Star ever, actually. I've heard that I should, but I also didn't have, what is it,
Dreamcast, I believe, yeah.
Yeah. One of my friends in college had a Dreamcast with the modem adapter and was able to play it online.
Nice.
And I actually got to watch it on a CRT in a dorm room. And that was a good time. That was entertaining. I don't remember much about it, but yeah, I never played a Phantasy Star game. I'd like to, though. I should. I know they've released them on PC. Diablo Ludi type nonsense. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, the PC version, I'll have to check that out. Octopath. That's a game that I got really far in on Switch. Never finished it. This is a recurring trend for me. Started a save on PC, got really far in, never finished it. I think that was around the time that I got distracted with Super Animal Royale streams and just never got back to it. But I started another save about a week ago, and I decided to start with Cyrus, my favorite character, probably my analog in that game, and go in the same order that I did with my Switch character pickup. So that went from Cyrus to Tressa to Ulbrich to Therion.
On purpose or on accident?
No, on purpose.
Oh, okay. All
because to me, that loadout was very easy to abuse. I went and found 4 job shrines, so all of my 4 characters that I have in my active party have 2 jobs. I have people that can cover each weapon type and almost every element. Yeah, so I got good coverage going on. Renby has been watching me and actually enjoys watching. I don't understand. Like, who actually enjoys watching somebody play an RPG? It's me. I'm the person.
Me. Wait, I am in this photo.
Yes.
And I don't like it.
But Remby has enjoyed it and has requested me play it some nights, and I'm just kind of like, okay.
Like the
Fine.
10 minutes I saw you play that one time, what looked interesting, to be sure. It's just, man, I haven't gone back to actually pick it up.
It does not have DRM.
Good. Well, there's one hurdle cleared. The lowest of bars to clear, and congrats, it did it.
Yeah, so I did like 3 or 4 optional dungeons, got much better equipment than I feel I should have, because I've just been like doing the character stories earlier today. I think I did like 2 or 3 of them. I didn't have to try. Like, I played the game like I was supposed to. Like, I found the enemy weaknesses. I used Analyze to find them and whatnot. I broke them, which is the big mechanic in that game. If you break a character, an enemy has a certain amount of hits it can take with its vulnerabilities before it is broken, at which point its turn is canceled and its next turn is canceled, and it takes extra damage. So this is one of those games, kind of like FF10, where it actually shows you the turn order at the top of the screen.
Right, and then it just keeps going.
Yeah. So I'm playing it as intended. I'm not going into zones and getting shit that I shouldn't have, but I'm going into these optional dungeons, barely surviving for a while, and then of course if you survive for a little bit, you get enough XP where it becomes comfortable. And then I started doing character chapters today, and it's like, well, that's all happening. So I look forward to possibly getting back into it when I get home tonight. At the very least, I'm going to play a little more this weekend. But that game is real fun. It scratches the numbers itch too. Yeah, we're getting into some juicy stuff. Yeah, I think I want to play later. Another game that I've been playing, Rambi actually introduced this to me, and it conveniently has 4-player multiplayer. It was Minecraft Dungeons. I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't really understand the game at first, but realistically speaking, it's like an MMO. You have a party that you run, and you do stuff on screen, and it progresses a story.
Interesting.
Like, you run an instance. It's kind of like you run an instance of a dungeon.
Oh, okay. Okay, I get you.
Like, you start at the beginning, you get to the end, you earn money, you can buy things afterward, etc.
And you go into the next one, and then so on. Right?
Yeah, essentially. Okay. I didn't really get it the first time I played, and when I'm overtired and burned out, I get real salty and butthurt real quickly. So I kind of let it sit, and then I played it again with people the last time, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. There's like 17 billion buttons for everything you can do, but I kind of remember which one does what now. And yeah, God, I'm old. Fuck. But no, I enjoyed it. I heard tell that perhaps it would be booted up again. Maybe that's a thing for tonight. I'm chill with that. It's nice. I made a character. Apparently, you can like cloud sync your characters and play them on other consoles. You just retain your progress and whatnot. I accidentally made a ranged build, and it's been fun. So I look forward to playing that. Again, very conveniently has 4-player multiplayer. We have 4 people living together now. How convenient. But I know I played something else. I can't think of what it was. I'll probably remember in the middle of a sentence that you're saying.
That's legit. That's fine.
It's just how it works for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's memory for you.
Yeah. But why don't we go through your probably huge list compared to mine?
It's not that large. I mean, it's...
Yeah, well, you stream regularly.
That's true.
You're in the Shmup Book Club. You're doing Archipelago stuff.
Yeah. I didn't even write that down. My God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna type that in real quick. Okay.
Cool.
All right. So, anyways, normal stream stuff. Last time I had just started up on Axiom Verge 2, and by this time around, we're done with it. Very fun game. I did enjoy Axiom Verge 1. The storyline to that was wild and weird and confusing. Axiom Verge 2 is wild and weird and confusing, but still plays the same, very competently designed Metroidvania-esque. Get this ability, go over here, now get this ability and go over there and do interesting shit in between. And Axiom Verge 2 is definitely a lot of that, which I like a lot. I don't care how many times anybody retreads that sort of formula. Make the stuff in between interesting, and it's fine. It's great. It's a purchase and a recommend and all that.
So it's a Metroidvania.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
I caught it. Yeah.
Very much so. The story was wild. Didn't really get resolved at the end, which either leaves it to player interpretation or a really easy Axiom Verge 3. Although there wasn't a whole lot of story connections between 1 and 2, besides a couple character name drops every now and again, which, to my credit of my failing memory, I did recognize when it did happen. But it was a very fun game. It was a very fun game. One that I hope eventually does get the official randomizer treatment that Axiom Verge 1 got, which is kind of funny in its own right. But I don't know how to classify it in terms of size between the two as well, though, because it took me a long time to get through Axiom Verge 2. It got down to the point where I had to look at the holes in the map. Like you got your mini map or your world map or whatever, you see the little gaps in the sides of the walls saying that, hey, there's a transition to this next area over here. It's like, okay, well, they didn't seem too good at telling me where I should go next. Let's look at the map and see, oh, okay, there's apparently a path off here, and do it that way. That kind of kicked in earlier than I would have thought for that game, which is unfortunate, because that kind of signals to me that I'm not a big fan of games like signposting you on where to go and when all the time, but I feel like that one could have used a little bit more. Oh well. It was still a very fun game. Like, I enjoyed it.
So is the map randomized at all, or is it the same map all the time?
No, it's the same map.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no. Axiom Verge 1 did get an official randomizer. It doesn't do the map rando, but it does, item randos, and there's enough mobility between areas without all of the key movement abilities that it makes a lot of sense for that particular game. And I think it's the same would be true for Axiom Verge 2 as well. It's like there's the one disappointment I have in Axiom Verge 2 as a Metroidvania and as a platformer is that you never got spoilers. You never got a double jump. And that disappoints me so much, because that is the strongest ability in any platformer, in my opinion, is getting that double jump. There were a few sort of analog abilities to it, but never anything as good as an honest to goodness double jump, which is unfortunate. But it was a very good game, nonetheless. I would probably go back and revisit it once I forget most of what I've done for it the first time. But very good game nonetheless.
I mean, you play enough that you would think that it flushes the cash out pretty quickly. You would
think so. I mean, aside on that a little bit, between games that have 1 and 2s, I remember more of La Mulana 1 than I remember of La Mulana 2.
You probably struggled with it a lot more.
I did. Partially because I didn't start writing stuff down until about 2/3 of the way through the game.
You thought you were good enough that you didn't need to.
I thought they would supply enough in the game to record shit that you wouldn't need to do that and take external notes. I was wrong.
Lumisa. Why?
Right, exactly. But anyways, that aside. So after Axiom Verge 2, I picked up Invisible Inc. This is a somewhat older game back in 2018. Older, right? Made by Clay Entertainment. They were responsible for the Don't Starve series and a couple other gems, indie darlings type sort of thing. It's a tactical stealth turn-based game, which typically I do not go for turn-based because it ends up being, slow and just not very engaging. But I did pick this one up because it was on my list for a while and it looked neat. And it's, not cyberpunky, but very sci-fi, distant future type stuff, and it is a great game. Like, I love it. Did two runs in total over the 3-ish weeks that I played it. One victory in both runs, so hell yeah.
Nice.
Very tense. Very tense, especially in the end game. Um, and a lot of fun characters to yell at, which I probably improved my likability of the game quite a bit because I like to yell at things and people.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I would recommend that game as well. It's not necessarily Fire Emblem because it's not like the weapon triangle or anything like that. But you do have characters that have certain strengths and abilities that you need to combine in a good enough way to get everybody out alive, essentially, if you want to succeed. And it does give you a certain capacity to rewind turns if you really do a bad,
Hmm.
which I did exercise on a couple occasions. But it's very fun. It's very fun. We get a lot of good nicknames for characters like Hacky Girl and the Chin and
So it's not just swearing at them. Okay.
no, it's not. You really form a bond with these characters sometimes.
Nice.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And probably one that I would revisit on a less regular stream basis and more of like a casual pickup and try to do it again
Sure.
basis. The end of the second run was really tense because I lost 3/4 of my people. But it was the end of the run, so it didn't matter. Hooray, you win, you get the end cutscene, and then it resets and you do it again, type thing. And that was only like the middle difficulty.
Huh.
So I'm like, oh gee, I don't have the heart to play hard. I'm gonna lose everybody right away and be sad. I don't want to do that.
Permadeath.
I know it is.
Yeah.
It is permadeath.
I had to guess, yeah.
On the hardest difficulty, on normal, on easy and normal, you can pick up those characters again later. But on hard, if you leave them behind without reviving them and getting them to the exit, they're gone. You can't go get them again. And it's like, I'm already stretched to limit on the last mission of resources and people and whatever. How would you do this if you didn't keep everybody alive constantly? It was fun though. It was fun. I had on the last mission, I remember I was in probably the last quarter of the mission, and I had 2 of my 6 party members essentially in a rather large room kiting around 4 enemies. And what happens is the main mechanic is if you get spotted, if one of your people gets spotted, you have 1 tile to move to get them out of sight. Otherwise, they're gone.
Huh.
So kiting around 4 enemies in a rather large room with 2 of your people kind of in harm's way all the time is fun. Tense, but fun. And unfortunately, I did lose those 2 folks at the end of the run, but again, victory at all costs type of thing. So now we're done with Invisible Ink. I picked up Ghost Song. This is another Metroidvania-y-ish type of game. Hews closer to Dark Souls philosophy in terms of your heals and your saves and your upgrades and all of that sort of thing. I'm not sure how far along into it I am. I just got the map markers for the significant objectives at the end of Wednesday's session, which would have been about 4 hours or so in. And I've picked up 1 of them. So 4 of those left to go, plus I would presume something beyond that. So it's looking like a fairly sizable game. The music is interesting. It's very much more ambient than I would have expected for a game like that. I'm surprised there's as much voice acting as in there as it is. But it's interesting. It's very atmospheric. There's a little bit of body horror associated with it as well, which is sometimes off-putting, but it's very much in the aesthetic, so it works. So I'm going to be picking that up again next week and see how far we get. On the Shmup Book Club SBC side of things, the Shmup for month of November is Armed Police Unit Gallop. Arcade game, very uninterested in having you succeed.
Shocker.
Yeah, I know, right? Stage 3 boss in particular is a big shit. Stage 2 is not great stage-wise. The boss is kind of a pushover. Stage 1 is really difficult for a stage 1. Most of the folks who have played it in the SBC now have kind of decided, yeah, you get to stage 3, that's good. That's good enough. Don't bother with more. Me being the stubborn idiot variety of things, being like, okay, I've gotten to stage 4 like 3 times. I can do better than that. So I'm probably going to subject myself to it more. Maybe not next week because of holidays and shit, but maybe the week after, or sometime in between, just to improve. Like when I played last night, I managed to improve my score by like 6,000.
Which I suppose you're talking about millions of points, right?
No, no, like my best now is sitting at like 320,000 or something.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very marginal improvement. I feel bad about it. It's just like, damn it, I know I can do better than this, but the game is just being a shit. I can't do it. Hate it. I'm gonna play it again, but I hate it.
That's how they get you.
I know, right? My own worst enemy with that. I hate it, but I love it, but I hate it. Our monthlies are still going, so we've still got KaiCon going for October through December. This is a freeware PC shmup. Anybody can go out and download. It's excellent. Supposedly the music it uses is all like stuff you can go out and buy and use in projects, but it's so good for the feeling that it conveys and the levels it goes with, which is just wild for not necessarily stock music, but commercially available music that you can buy and put to stuff, right? So that's going through end of December yet. Had a lot of lead changes on those boards with people pushing each other to do better, which is always cool to see. Our other quarterly going on right now is Gradius Gaiden. That's kind of a hateful game too. As far as the Gradius series is concerned, or Gradius, or however you want to pronounce it, it's probably one of the better entrants in terms of mechanics and design and generally feeling fair. Like if you die, it's on you, not on the game necessarily. But it's also very difficult. Also a very difficult game that can put you in rather unfortunate spots if you die and get sent back or forward to a checkpoint. But yeah, that's another one where I really shouldn't play any more of it because I'm just gonna end up angry. But I know I can do better. But that's how that sort of stuff goes usually. For my long plays on Sundays, I've been playing Curse of the Dead Gods. Very, very, very fun game. I will compare it to Hades in terms of the gameplay aspects. You get a couple weapons, you get a heavy weapon, a light weapon, and kind of a mid-grade weapon, and you can chain together your attacks between those three based on certain stamina points that you have. And then you get upgrades as you go along, and you can buy things, or you can sacrifice what's called corruption to get it. Once you hit a certain corruption level, you get a curse put on you, and it's some sort of detrimental effect. Like one will swap the level you're in horizontally like every 2 to 3 minutes or something, which is honestly one of the lighter ones. But if that happens while you're actively fighting something, that's a bit of a problem. One of them makes you gain corruption over time until you get rid of the curse. There's several that double the damage done to you by traps within the dungeon. Yeah, it becomes a big problem if you don't manage that correctly. On top of the game being very difficult to begin with, and me being a very greedy, full of hubris person, I of course go for everything that I shouldn't be going for, and then end up getting my ass kicked. You would expect no less, though.
Right. We had the conversation earlier that it's been 16 years that we've known each other, and some things just don't change. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I had a run, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, where I was on the final boss and like 2 or 3 hits away from finally finishing it, and I get my ass handed to me, of course. And it's just like, oh no, come on, his health meter's down to just that little sliver, and then I botch a dodge or a parry or something, and I get smoked immediately. It's just like, damn it, I really shouldn't play this anymore, but I'm going to play it again anyways, because it is really fun.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that sometimes it ends up that way. Something I've been playing on and off, even though I played this for a long time as my previous Sunday long plays Monolith. I don't remember if it was immediately before previous show or shortly thereafter. I was trying to defeat one of, if not the hardest of the kind of endgame bosses on one-hit KO mode, and I was having trouble with it forever. Finally, I managed to do it, and on top of that, I managed to quad S rank the entire run after that fight too. So it's something like to get quad S rank, you need to have a few number of hits. Well, on Oko, that's pretty much guaranteed, right? You need to explore every room. You need to get every secret, and you need to do it in under, I think, 25 minutes or so. So I was just happy enough to beat that super endgame boss on Oko mode, but there's like a whole third of the run left to go afterwards, and I managed to finish it entirely out, which was fun and cool, and I'm glad I got that on video to some extent. Because it was totally like, you know what? I don't care what happens to the run after this point. Let's see what happens. Oh, shit, I beat the entire thing. Hooray. Oh, what's my rank? Quad S. Cool.
Right on.
It was fun. And I do still play it a little bit, because I learned that there was actually another form of that final boss afterwards if you take a certain action, which I did go back and then beat again, just to check it out a couple days ago or so. Which the patterns on that particular form of that boss are horseshit.
Yeah.
And kind of unfair, but it is very satisfying to finally beat the damn thing. And apparently there's another DLC coming out for Monolith eventually at some point too. So nice. Once that comes out, I'll probably go back to it again.
There you go.
Oh, and then finally, earlier this week on Monday, we started up a new round of Async Multiworld with 16 of us, 16 individual folks, 99 worlds or instances of games between us all, and something like 17,000 items, item checks, locations across all 99 of those worlds. And the response has been pretty heartening. Everybody's doing their work, so good job, everybody. Keep it up. It's a lot of fun. This is our 5th major iteration of this. Slightly smaller than the 4th iteration prior, but I expect that considering the holidays are very close at hand now. But I imagine once we're done with that, probably around the end of the year, we'll be starting up the 6th one shortly thereafter. We're in a good spot where we can, take a couple weeks in between to consider our sins and then forget that we have sinned and then do it again. I know, right? Come on, you really should join us once at some point, because it is fun.
I'm waiting for Solitaire.
Well, Slay the Spire's in there. Like, you're really good at that, so,
I still... Man, how does that work?
You get card draws, I think,
gotcha.
as your item unlocks, and I'm not sure what the Slay the Spire item checks are. I'm sure Tom can tell you, though. He's done it a couple times.
Sure, okay. Could be fun.
Yeah, it's low pressure. It's intended to be long-term as far as time is concerned, so it's like we understand that everybody has different schedules, and that's really the primary reason we started doing this in an asynchronous fashion, was because of that. Like, sometimes a half dozen of us can get together and on fairly short notice to do a synchronous multi-world, but you can get a lot more people and a lot more games and stuff going on if you spread out the time a little bit.
Well, why don't we commit to doing Babby's first archipelago with just like 1 seed each or something, and
that's fine.
I can go ahead and do Slay the Spire and see how it works.
Yeah, no problem.
Because that does sound like it would be really fun. I just, being thrown to the wolves right away, maybe not, but if I can at least get eased into it, maybe?
I mean, you don't have to join the big 120 world ones that we do right away. But it is a lot of fun.
I have to imagine that, like, Slay the Spire is only 90-ish floors, so you have to keep playing to get all the floor rewards? Is that how that works?
It sounds like that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Huh. I mean, that does sound fun. I think I could get behind that.
So I think that's all I've been playing since last time. It was a short list.
Short. Yeah.
Short in relative terms, right? But it's time for Toonski's number 2 here. Let's start off with the remix from Mario Paint, entitled Brushwork by Fratto, Weasty, and the OC Jazz Collective. Then on to a remix from Celeste, entitled Black Moonrise Midnight Mix by Bean Jammin'. And then finishing off with a remix from Minecraft, entitled Pig Mosh by Moshbits. Meep. Not quite. Okay, we are coming on to the final segment of the evening where we do some design here. We've already got the thing pulled up, and as tradition dictates... Oh, I'm going to have to unblock a script to make that work. So, as tradition dictates, we can't take the one that pops up by default, because we didn't actually click the generate button.
It's true.
But the one that we would have come up with had we been able to accept this one is Rhythm, Keep It Alive, Steampunk, Coming of Age. Kind of glad we didn't get this one.
Yeah.
Honestly. Rhythm I'm cool with. Coming of Age, Steampunk, kind of hard to make it work. But we can now click the generate button and see what we got, huh?
Do it up.
Oh dear. This is interesting. So the genre, roguelike cross robot programming.
Okay.
Right, sure. The rule, strength in numbers. The setting, parallel universe. And the theme, love against the odds. That last
robot
one,
propagation.
That last one really throws a curveball up in there. I'm not feeling this one very much.
Nah.
I'm being honest.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, number 1, that's kind of a stinker. Number 2. Oh, interesting. All right. The genre is board game.
Okay.
Okay. It's up your alley. Rule, no weapons allowed. The setting, dark fantasy.
Okay.
And the theme, revenge. Huh.
You're staring at me after every one of
I
these.
mean, hey, like a lot of these sound like it's your jam. Like board game especially.
That's fair.
You like board games though, don't you? Right?
It's been a long time since I played one. I mean, I like the concept of board games. Oh heck.
No weapons allowed, dark fantasy, revenge?
So something, I don't know, I'm trying to think of how you could do this. Like, how could you accomplish an end in a dark fantasy about revenge without having to use weapons?
Yeah, that's a good question. Does leveraging the environment cause or count as a weapon?
See, I'm thinking traps and subterfuge, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Or, environmental effects, maybe.
I think it's serviceable, yeah.
So, like, I think we need to define what weapons are. So, if we were to do this, we would have to come up with something like anything that directly affects another character would have to be a weapon. Like, using magic spells, smacking them with a sword. But, like, if you hit something else and then it causes things to happen, oh no, that's incidental. I don't know.
Act of God, not my fault.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, that's actually kind of interesting, though. Revenge against a god? Through acts of God?
By antagonizing other characters to
maybe.
to take revenge on said god.
Ooh. Okay, so this could be like Hades, except you're pissing off all of the gods to go after the one god that you're truly trying to get rid of. So it becomes a game of
interesting
social deduction almost, where you're duping everybody, or you're causing accidents and leading people to think something when in fact another thing had already happened.
Yeah, there's the subterfuge angle for sure.
I mean, board game, you can absolutely involve things like dice, to determine your successes, what kind of action you might take.
Right.
You'd have things like spinners and cards and whatnot.
Do you successfully fool them, or do they catch on to you immediately and smite you?
This almost feels like it has to be a roguelike. But it's a board game, so you can't really do that? Well, that's not true, because you have games like Betrayal at House on the Hill, where you draw cards to create the layout and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
So I think something like that would be possible, where like you you don't always have the same layout. You don't just have a board that you unfold and it shoots and ladders with the ladders in the same place every
Right,
time.
right.
Um,
And
oh,
character-wise, you could draw different characters each time you play, saying you are this character, your objective is this,
sure. You can have
go
like
about it.
10 to 15 character cards, whatever. Like your strengths are this, your weaknesses are these, you have these skills to use while you play. Yeah, I think this is doable.
All right, sounds like we were going that way already.
Yeah.
Very good. So board game, no weapons allowed. Dark fantasy. Revenge.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
Gosh, actually, God of War, the board game. Because wasn't
I
the original God
suppose,
of War
yeah.
against Zeus?
Uh,
Wasn't it Revenge against Zeus?
was it?
I cannot
I think
remember.
so.
Um,
I don't know what the beef between Ares and Zeus was.
big shrug.
There must have been one. Like they were constantly infighting. Like even besides those two, they were just all over each other.
Kratos, what is your
all at each
motive?
other. Kratos, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess it depends on the mythology you want to follow.
I mean, there's your dark fantasy.
I was still stuck on the whole Hades angle, where it's Ares and
Oh, sure.
Ares and Zeus and whoever.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, all right. As the player character or player characters, if this is a board game and multiple people going on, is the intent to turn the gods against each other that we were talking about earlier?
Kind of thinking that it would be really interesting to make that a thing. Yeah. Let's
Okay.
make that the primary mechanic.
Okay.
So you have to do this by deception. Abusing trust, eroding trust. Causing coincidental events to happen that would spur another god to want to go after who they think is actually the culprit. I don't know.
okay.
Yeah. You foment the seeds of doubt.
Nice. That's foment is a great word. Amongst otherwise strong allies.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So board game from the start. Create the board, right?
Yep.
Draw up the play area that you're starting with. So I've never actually played House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
How the heck does that work?
So you have it's been a while, but basically I remember there being like at least a small cluster of cards that you put down, and you draw cards to have rooms in the house, and they have
Okay.
to, like, if there's a hallway, you have to connect a hallway, or certain rooms you can have connect to other things, like there's ways to fall from the first floor into the basement, things like that.
Okay.
But the layout of the house, almost consider it like the map layout in a Zelda 1 dungeon. So you have doors and contents on the inside. They have to connect to each other some way. I'm not sure what the scope of the board would be.
So I don't know what the name of it is. I'm trying to recall like any sort of mythology that I ever learned about. And I think a reasonable way to kind of restrict the play area to this would be like some pantheon of the gods, wherever they got together to meet or whatever.
Sure.
and then you as the player characters are, mere mortals in service to the gods, or just going up there to lay in treaties or whatever, and then you get the bright idea to fuck around with them and turn them against each other type thing.
Oh, that's a fantastic working title. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna write that down right away. Apropos of nothing currently going on in the world.
Yeah, so you could play some character akin to perhaps Loki, where your entire being is just causing problems.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know. Obviously, you don't want to be Loki. Like, you want to be someone that people already have, like, a baseline trust for.
That's true. That could be like hard mode.
Yeah. You have to...
Yeah.
Your actions in the game will determine the difficulty of rolls, perhaps, in whether you retain, gain, or lose trust. Ooh, actually, that could be a thing. That could be your life count. Trust. How much people trust you.
Okay. And if you fall below a certain level of trust across everything, you get smote.
Yeah, pretty much. Smited.
Smited. There you go.
Yeah, whatever. But depending on the range in which your trust score is determines your bonuses or detriments to your rolls, perhaps.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that you could pair that with something like actions that have difficulty levels. So your trust modifier would go against, like, say, if someone moderately distrusted you, but you chose to do something easy, and you rolled a success, your trust would go up, but only by a little bit.
Okay.
And you would achieve the outcome you wanted. But
if you fail the roll, then trust goes down, some other nasty effects happen, maybe not the outcome you wanted, that hurts your overall goal.
Yeah, and eventually if your trust falls below a certain threshold, you're excommunicated or smoked.
Okay, trust falls to critical levels. Chance of excommunication or being smited.
Love it.
All right, cool. Okay. Point of view is really the point of view of the player character that you happen to have.
Yeah, I mean, you're the character. It's all in your imagination, etc.
I mean, you could play it that way, right? Within the confines of the board that you have, and the objective you're trying to achieve. Like, this is very much a DM GM situation now, right?
Ooh, actually, now that you say that, so I don't know when you generate the board, but when you arrive in a room, the room itself has a list of all of the things you can do based on difficulty level.
Okay.
That's what determines what actions are valid inside of that one particular place. Whether you want to chance it and do something highly difficult and either get great reward or detriment, yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay, not generated until the first person goes to it? Until the first player?
Sure. Yeah, I think it could be procedurally generated.
Yeah, until the first player enters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, so that could be the progression. So you start somewhere by drawing a card and putting it down, or there's a start card that you always have. And then the end game is getting through the entire deck of rooms until you get to the end. You exhaust all of the room cards.
Okay. So fixed start, fixed end, everything in between is the progression of the game, essentially.
Yeah, I'd say.
Okay.
And there could be different scenarios and stuff too, but I mean, part of it is your own storytelling, I guess.
Not generated until the first player. Well, until the first player plays that card, right, or that piece of the board.
Yeah, so let's actually consider this a cooperative game. So it can be
Okay.
2 to 4 players, we'll say. And you each take turns laying the cards down, drawing what they are, making the decisions as to what to do with what you draw. But you're all the same character. So each person has to do their own roles. They have to decide which difficulty level thing they want to do, or perhaps any boons they want to use. You might be able to find items or random events that happen
Okay.
along the way.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you could, let's say you roll a d6 every time you enter a room, and it can, I know, I just keep adding on more mechanics, but like, if you roll a 1, you land in a trap and you lose something. You roll a 6, you find something that you can use to your advantage, or there's a commotion that's already started that you can use to distract people. I don't know. So on a turn, a person draws a room card, puts it down. They roll a die to determine your modifiers for the room. And then they have to choose what action they want to do with the modifiers that they were given. And if you succeed, you gain a formulaic amount of trust. If you fail, you lose a certain amount of trust.
Okay. Roll spin, etc. to determine success, failure, bonus, detriment, bonus penalty, I guess.
Oh, that would actually lead itself to being a game that's really good for having like additional content. Haha, DLC.
Yeah, right.
Where you could just buy
Extra
new decks.
packs. Yep.
Yeah. And then if you wanted to, you can mix and match them. And yeah.
And the prescription is X number of room cards, X number of action cards, etc., or mix and match to make your own game that you want to play with, right?
Yeah, and realistically speaking, the more decks you have, the longer the game can go. Yeah. Hey. I like
now
it.
this is a deck builder. Not quite, but
I mean,
sort of. Okay. Oops. I'll move this bit down since it's later on in the sequence of things. So the level of trust as kind of the health, that since everybody's playing as cooperating to play as this single person entity, whatever, right?
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Say you can do a scale of 0 to 100, you start at 50 or something. And if you make it to the end within a certain score range, you get this kind of bonus and this ending, and etc.
Roll succeed, fail, roll. Stress fails to critical level, chance of excommunication or being smited. Okay. Yep. Thought I had something, but I didn't. Just kind of evaporated. Okay, well, inventory is easy. That's the cards that you draw.
Yeah.
Room cards, action cards.
Ah, yeah, that, okay. Yeah. So the dice rolls can determine whether you draw item or tool cards or curse cards or something like that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, okay, I like
tool
that.
cards, curse cards.
Trap cards.
Triggered by, yeah, okay.
Yep,
Cards.
Yep.
Auto-played trap cards. Oh, well. Okay.
You could get statuses that, yeah. Yeah, depending, you could have benevolent or uh not destructive, but words hard. Detrimental statuses that follow you between rooms
Okay.
based on the things you could draw. Like say 1 is always guaranteed to be a trap, 6 is guaranteed to be a boon or an item, and then like 2 through 5 can be whatever.
Yeah.
And
Chance versus community chests.
yeah, exactly, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. Just on a dice roll, right?
Yeah.
Cards, guaranteed penalty. God, type please. Natural 1. 2 to whatever random chance for neutral cards. Rooms, actions, tools. Okay. Upper ranges bonuses. So
Yeah.
boons slash bonuses.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's fair enough.
Yeah, that works. Okay. Mechanics we went over a little bit. The board gets built as room cards are played. When rooms are first brought into existence, they get the list of actions to them that you can do, restricted by the level of trust that you presently have as far as what you can do. If you try to do something outside that level of trust, you have to roll higher to make it work. You get a, what's that called? Like, you get a penalty to your roll, like, yeah, that you gotta exceed. Or I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know
play
what you
these
mean.
things.
It's fine.
All the time, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I'm also tired.
Yeah, that's also true. And then you get to the end, and yeah, what's the end game here? Like, what do you have to do to take the final set of actions to win? Do you have to accrue enough mistrust points amongst various gods that you're trying to fool to have them come to your aid and make the final saving roll to win the game?
Maybe. I mean, consider any success in a room to have gained you an ally, or
Okay.
at the very least, not made an enemy, I guess.
True. Okay. And if
Um,
your friends, if your allies outweigh your enemies, it's easier to win the final encounter and win, I suppose, huh?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I'm just gonna put board game for a lot of these entries because I
That's
feel
fine.
like we know what that is. Okay. Okay, so on the final room and actions, weigh allies versus enemies to set up for the final encounter. Set up the rolls, I guess, for the final encounter. Like what?
Modifiers?
Yeah, modifiers. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Set up modifiers for the final encounter. Then what does the actual final encounter look like? Is it a series of rolls by chance to see what happens, or is there like a final section of the deck that you draw from, and then you play like a final hand to see what happens?
So I'm trying to think of like how you could accrue successes in a tangible form that you could use to give you bonuses with the coup de grace, say.
Right.
Hmm.
So I could see this as however many players there are, you draw like 3 or 4 cards per, and you play out the final encounter like you would have played out the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have certain modifier, or say like 3+ allies, this card that you would play gives you like a +6 to overcoming the final threshold for victory. So
Sure.
victory points at the end or whatever. You have to make it to this amount in order to be considered victorious. If you don't, you're smote. You are
Yeah.
smoted.
So I suppose with that in mind, at the beginning of the game too, you could draw a god card to know who you're trying to
Ah, okay.
overcome and perhaps what their weaknesses are.
And then try to set up your actions such that you play against those weaknesses in the final bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Play out the game to exploit the weaknesses present on that god or boss. And then I guess yeah, I'm trying to think of what that final encounter looks like then. It's based on the rest of the game, it sounds like it's a final hand being played essentially.
Kinda.
Like, hey, you play this card, and then your next player plays the next card, and you try to work out between each other the best thing to do to get to that threshold of victory.
Yeah, and the only cards that you have... Oh, actually, here. So the only cards you have to work with are the ones that you got through your rolls as you went through the rooms.
Oh, I see. So as you clear or complete a room, you draw another card to represent an action that you can take in the final encounter?
No. I think the only time you would get a card is if you roll a 2 through 5,
Or if
determine
you
if it's a neutral thing,
six-
or if you get a
oh,
tool
I
with a
see.
6.
So it's a different category or class of card that can be carried through to the...
Yeah, why don't we treat it like that?
Okay.
Huh. Yeah, yeah. I think that works. We'll use this tool later on.
Okay. Yeah.
And I guess you'd be like fighting against boss stats. Which I'm not really sure how that would look, and honestly would take a lot of time just to try to come up with that right now.
Right.
But like these cards would allow you to exploit vulnerabilities, and if you ended up getting allies, which I guess maybe that's the 6 card, or the 6 roll, is you actually get the ally for that room, assuming that you succeed.
Mm-hmm.
You could use those allies in combination with the other modifiers you have to call into shame, kill, whatever the end goal is, I guess.
Or reduce the threshold for victory.
Yeah, essentially. And then if you had enough trust points at the end to make your case and have a successful roll with that amount of trust points to determine if people believe you or not, I guess that's the winning condition.
You win outright, otherwise you have to try to play it out as if it were a fight or an encounter. Like the easiest,
and I suppose you could use your cards to help you through that if you have to do challenges like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, I would see there being opportunities to have a clear and decisive victory. Like, if you absolutely have enough allies and enough counter cards or whatever to exploit those vulnerabilities and have a clear victory, then sure, do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have challenges along the way, like if you're questioned or whatever the case is, you could use the other cards that you have to assist you in not failing those rolls. And honestly, the trust hit point value, yeah,
Maybe that's the pool you go into that with.
yeah, and you win once you hit 100, and you lose once you hit 0.
And then anything in between, you have to kind of fight it out at the end.
Kinda. Until you reach one or the other.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. That seems doable.
Okay. Seems pretty solid.
Yeah. Lots to work with.
And we've already got a title.
It's true.
Which
Fuck
is
around to find out.
Which is the toughest part of this, always. Story and hook we've already kind of managed.
Yeah. That's about everything.
That's pretty good. As someone who doesn't play board games much at all, this sounds pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, I need to play them more. But yeah, no, I mean, I could see this turning into something pretty cool.
Neat. All right. Well, I'm willing to call it there.
I'm good.
Call that a pretty good design for 20 minutes of work.
So, what would the third roll have been?
Yeah, let's see. So, the one that we ultimately would not have chosen, glad we didn't. The genre, point and click and casual. The rule, a single resource. The setting, World War. And the theme, satire.
Oil the game.
The thing that, the sad part about is the thing that kills it here for me is the point and click and casual.
Yeah, uh-huh.
The rest of it, you can make something pretty good about that, but...
Oh, shit. You know what this is? This is Cookie Clicker.
Oh, no. Why was I just thinking that, too?
Holy shit, yeah. This is absolutely Cookie Clicker, the game.
Oh, good gravy.
Cool. Well, hey, I'm glad we didn't have to remake that game.
Exactly. Glad we did not go for the third roll, because this would have been tougher to do than that porn game we made.
Oh my god.
Not porn, erotic visual novel, whatever.
I'm very glad you said tougher instead of harder.
Right?
Yeah.
It's totally intentional avoidance of certain words.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're gonna go with.
Yikes.
Hoo boy. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of Insert Credits for this evening. Anything else we need to impart to the folks out there? Otherwise, we can call it a night.
I think I'm good to go.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. I'm MrBond.
I'm Tormod.
We'll leave you with our typical closing track, a remix from Mario Kart Wii entitled Wind in Your Hair by Overclock University. Good night, everybody.
Ciao.